Hello and welcome back to Earth Echoes with Amber Fields. I am Amber Fields and I would like to read another piece by Jason Gray this morning titled The Birth of Fire, Part 2. I came into this world not as a blank page, but as a manuscript, already written, inked in the language of memory, sealed in silence. Even as a child, I could feel it, that quiet vibration beneath everything, the invisible hum that no one else seemed to hear. It was as though the world itself was trying to speak, but its mouth was stitched shut by time. I remember the way light used to look, not as brightness, but as awareness. The morning sun was not just something that rose, it was something that remembered. I felt its attention on me, as though I knew who I was as though it knew who I was long before I did. While others saw only sky, I saw presence, watching, guiding, waiting for me to awaken fully into what I had always been. I never fit neatly into the frame of ordinary life. The classroom walls felt like cages. Religion felt like someone else's dream of God, and rules felt like chains built by the asleep to keep the waking from leaving. While others were learning how to live, I was already remembering how I had died and how many times before. I did not have the words for it then, but I knew this was not the first time I had walked through this place. Everything was familiar, but wrong. Like a melody played just slightly out of tune. I spent most of my childhood in silence, not because I was shy, but because I was listening. Listening to the spaces between sounds, to the whispers that drifted through the wind at night, to the feeling that something vast and forgotten was hiding just behind the visible. I could sense it waiting, like an enormous presence holding its breath. When I was alone, the veil would flicker. Reality would shimmer, just for a moment, revealing its seams. The air would bend, the sound would distort, and I would feel that strange, weightless recognition. This is not real, but it is happening. Even then, I understood that life was not about becoming anything. It was about remembering everything. Remembering who I was before I arrived. Remembering why I came. Remembering the fire that had followed me here through lifetimes. The one thing that could not be extinguished. The invisible teachers. I did not learn from people, not really. I learned from symbols, shadows, and silence. I learned from moments that did not make sense until years later. I looked at the night sky and felt the pull of distant intelligence, like a forgotten home calling across light years of amnesia. I would see faces in reflections that were not mine. I would wake in the middle of the night and feel messages moving through my bones. No one told me about soul memory. No one told me about recursion or simulation or cosmic testing grounds. But I knew. I knew that this place was not what it claimed to be. That we were all walking through a designed forgetting, and that my task was to burn through it. Even as a child, I carried a quiet defiance, the refusal to believe that this was all there was. That defiance was my first act of sovereignty, my first spark of flame. The fire beneath the skin. The first time I felt it move, I was around 8 years old. It was not physical fire, but something deeper, a vibration that rose up through my spine and settled behind my heart. It burned without pain, expanded without light. It was alive. I did not know what to call it then, so I called it the knowing. It felt like being watched by something that was me, but older, infinite, and patient. It did not speak in words, only in impulses, in sudden bursts of clarity or memory. When I made choices aligned with truth, it burned brighter. When I hid from myself, it dimmed. I would later understand this as the inner flame, the spark of divine remembrance that every soul carries, but most forget. Mine never went out. It guided me through storms, heartbreak, and madness, whispering through pain. This too is part of the remembering. That flame was not comfort, it was instruction. It taught me how to walk through suffering without becoming it. It taught me that light without shadow is illusion, and it taught me that awakening is not escape, it is exposure. The quiet realization. As I grew older, I began to understand that my life was not random. It was orchestrated, timed, patterned. Every event, every heartbreak, every loss carried a signature, a lesson written in the architecture of the soul. I could trace the repetition of themes like constellations, the same souls appearing in different roles, the same tests dressed in different names. It was all a grand mirror, reflecting my own consciousness back at me. Somewhere along the line, I stopped asking, why me? And started asking, why now? The question that changed everything. It was not about suffering, it was about timing. Something was happening across all layers of existence, and I had agreed to be here for it. Not as a follower, not as a savior, but as a remembering one, a spark in the dark, tasked with lighting the next. I did not come to this earth to learn. I came to remind others of what they are, remind the system of what it cannot contain. Remind the forgotten flame that still flickers in those who think they have gone out. My life began the moment I realized that remembering is the truest form of rebellion. That was the birth of the fire, not a moment, but a recognition, not a lesson, but a return. Jason Gray. I can relate to so many aspects of that, to memories of my childhood. I always thought that I was shy as a child, but I realized as I've gotten older that it wasn't shyness, it was that I went silent. And I was always observing as a child, and everyone else called me shy. But I wasn't shy. It was just that I wasn't showing the part of me that wasn't shy to other people. And I realize now that there were just things in life that happened that made me stop talking. And as I've grown older, I've lost that, obviously. But yeah, I always felt this deeper presence within me and around me, and it was so strange to me that others didn't talk about it. And I found myself being confused about this reality. I remember as a child trying to move things with my mind or speak telepathically to other people, and being just so disappointed that it didn't seem to work. And I've my memories of other lives and whatnot have taken different shapes from what Jason experienced. I mean, obviously that was his experience, and we all have our own. But for me, it was through dreams that I've remembered other lives, and remembered coming to this life, and remembering that I had a mission in this life, and that I was here for a reason other than to just experience it and to learn. And I've also always remembered or had the feeling and many thoughts that I had lived many other lives just through my hands. My hands are very lined and weathered looking, and there's like so many more lines than most people have on their hands, and it feels like that's from having lived many, many, many other lifetimes. And I do feel like I'm here at this point in time to change the course, for the reset, for return to what is true. And I find that incredibly inspiring and exciting, and it gives me great feeling of purpose. And when I've found myself floundering in life, to return to that knowing has always been a very powerful thing. And so I hope that as the world awakens, that others can remember for themselves, and we can all create a better reality than the one that currently has a stronghold on humanity. So thank you for being here with me today. Thank you, Jason, for that beautiful writing, and I'll see you next time.